All right, welcome to Neighbors panel discussion on neighborhood organizing in the days of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Valerie O.T. Nellis. Neighbor to Neighbor seeks to equip residents and neighborhood organizations with the tools they need to preserve and improve their neighborhoods. In these unprecedented times, our hope is to shed light on how to on how to do the work of neighborhood organizing in this challenging era. This is the sixth in a six-part series. We have invited 8 neighborhood leaders and community organizers to help us explore this topic. As they answer the questions, I'll ask my neighborhood leaders and organizers to please identify themselves and let the folks know who you are. Our question today is, leading in crisis is very stressful. What are some tips you might have for self-care in the midst of a crisis?
I'll go first. I think one of the blessings of this crisis is it's happening during the springtime, which we know is beautiful here in Nashville. To introduce myself, my name is J.S. Bolton. I'm with the Nation's Neighborhood Association. And one thing I've been doing a lot, and I know a lot of other neighbors are doing it as well, is spending time outside. You know, as the trees were blooming, we had the cherry trees, we had the dogwoods, getting out, going for a long walk, going for a run if that's your thing. And, you know, if you typically work indoors, you don't have the opportunity to do that every day the way you might now. So I think a great self-care tip is simple and cheap, and it's just getting outside.
Very good, yes.
Valerie, this is Jordan Huffman from the Donaldson Hermitage Neighborhood Association. The biggest thing that has kept me going through this entire process has been keeping a routine and keeping a healthy diet. Between those two things, meditation has brought a lot of calmness to myself. And it's something that you got to do you get better with repetition. So it's something that definitely, if you've not explored, is something that can calm you down.
Absolutely.
This is Erskin Lytle with the College Hill Neighbors Association. And the thing I do on a very consistent basis is I actually get out and I will walk 3 miles every morning. And that is a wonderful time for self-reflection, just to get my mind off anything else that's going on that might otherwise cause me to get to tighten up. It's just very relaxing for me. And I also just listen to relaxing music now. I'm just like Jordan, I am a news junkie. There's no use in it, denying that. But what I have found is I will walk away, or I will just listen to something that I particularly enjoy, whether it's a smooth jazz or spirituals or the Temptations or something of that nature. That helps me a lot. And it also helps me to realize that when I'm dealing with other people, I don't have to have all the answers. I can also direct them to someone else, or contact someone else and direct them to the person who may have an issue that I'm just not capable of. I have to understand that I'm human and I have limitations as well.
I'll jump in here. This is Mike Hodge. I'm the organizing director for NOAA, Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. And I worked for 17 years for Neighbor to Neighbor when it was called Neighborhoods Resource Center. In the whole discussion about self-care, I figure my best example is to say I'm a bad example. I don't do it well. I don't do it well. I know I work too much. I get too focused. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something I've got to get done. But I guess I'm a good example because I recognize that that's a problem. And in stressful situations like this, I think if we don't take clear steps for some kind of self-care, we're going to be in trouble. I'll tell you just a couple of the things I'm attempting to do. Okay, I say attempt. One is I'm attempting to get out and walk some. On our greenways, you can go for a walk, and in some of the parks, and you can do social distancing and stay away from people and have a mask on. I'm also enjoying playing my guitar. I've loved playing the guitar for years, but usually I'm too darn busy to play the guitar. So now I just sit and strum a little bit, and it somehow really relaxes me. The other thing is we think about Zoom for business meetings, for neighborhood meetings, but how about grandkids? I have had 2 wonderful Zoom meetings with my grandkids. I have 6 grandkids. I'll show pictures in just but I think we can use Zoom. We can use these tools to nurture ourselves as well. I'm also trying to do a little more reading. I have books behind me, probably 50% of those books I haven't read. I've been collecting them over the years. I'm trying to nibble away some of them. And then just playing off what I think Jordan said about some kind of meditation or reflection. That's another thing I'm really bad at, but I know I need it. And part of the reason I need it is I need to connect to something larger. It might be to some faith issue, it might be to values, whatever it might be. But I'm kind of a quote junkie. So I love quotes by Martin Luther King, by Ella Baker, by a lot of different people. And I've just discovered a very short poem I want you to hear, okay? This is by Sonia Renee Taylor, who is a spoken word artist. She says, "We will not go back to normal." And that helps me. We will not go back to normal. Normal never was. Our pre-corona existence was not normal, other than that we normalized greed, inequity, exhaustion, depletion, extraction, disconnection, confusion, rage, hoarding, hate, and lack. We should not long to return, my friends. We're being given the opportunity to stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. So when I'm experiencing this stressful situation, if I can think, yeah, but I'm a part of maybe creating something new, maybe it's something larger, that offers me some help of self-care.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mike. That was great.
I love that poem, Mike. I'm going to be looking that up or emailing you to find out where I can find that. I'm Kia Jarman, board member for Neighbor to Neighbor. And one of the things I've been focused on, I believe in the ministry of naps and rest.
Yes.
And I think, you know, we operate as a society on busy, moving all the time, not necessarily being productive, but just always in constant movement. And I believe this is a great time to be in solitude. So to Mike's point about reading books, probably every book beside my bedside, there are about 4 of them are all about leadership, and they're all surrounding solitude. That wasn't purposeful. It just was every leader has to go into solitude to develop growth. And so for us to have the opportunity to not go back into what was before, we really do have to figure out how to go inward. And so rest is really important. Staying off of social media when you find yourself start to get triggered. And you'd have to know that. So your meditative practice or whatever your faith is will help you to know, like, why am I getting heated? Why is this uncomfortable? Why am I starting to want to respond? Why did I respond? Things like that. So being able to catch yourself before you do that really is the key there. I think several people said getting sun, vitamin D, is the universe's way of feeding us. And so if the garden grows by sun and by water, we need sun and water too. So if you do those things, you can mind your business really well, meaning you can kind of stay in alignment with what you're supposed to focus on. I think that's really important. And then one activity that, like this afternoon, I have my sorority, we're getting together on Zoom. My sister graduated from grad school last week, and so we did a Zoom graduation. And so I think to the point Mike was making about making online, not just, or Zoom or FaceTime or whatever you use, not just to be for business. That's really important. The last thing I probably would say is have a start and a stop time. Because we're at home more, there is more pressure from either workplace or our own pressures to work incessantly, have a time where you stop and cut that off. Because otherwise you take whatever that is, you don't give yourself time from whatever you were experiencing or working on. And many of you work in heavy issues all day. You then carry that right into bed, and then you wake up with those same levels of issues. So I really encourage us all to have a real defined start and stop place and time for ourselves.
Very good.
Cool. Okay, guys, this is Brenda Morrow with the Edge Hill community. My self-care is one of Miss Jarman's Miss Kia, I love that one, the nap. I find myself being able to take a nap. This COVID-19 have given me the pleasure of being able to take a nap. But pretty much my overall self-care is the fact that I love gardening. If I didn't love gardening, I wouldn't be dealing with gardeners in the Edge Hill Community Garden for since 1992. And every year we get out there and we do stuff in the garden. But for my own anxiety and stress level, I love painting. I picked up the brush one day when I needed an extra class in college. I needed an extra class, so I said art. I started with oils. Oils took too long to dry. I went to acrylics, and you couldn't change it. So then I found my love in watercolors. So I do painting, and I do poetry. I sit on my patio and I watch the kids playing, and sometimes I make up little poems about them, and then I give it to them in a little sheet protector. I decorate it real pretty and say, this is your poem. Just all kinds of things that that helps me to relax. In this time when you're thinking a lot about your family and your friends and you want everybody to be safe, it can be very stressful. So for me, I guess just being on my patio sometime and listening to music, that just helps me a lot. My sisters sometimes joke on me because they said, how do you know Reba McEntire's song all the way through? I'm like, I like it. And I have to tell them, she sings about stuff that's pertinent, about your Chevy truck. And I mean, like, oh my goodness, she's telling him to go somewhere with that truck. But anyway, that's my way of, dealing with self-care. The most important thing that I've done recently, well, since this started, I started exercising, because I feel like I don't move about as much as I used to. And when you get long in the tooth, you know, if you sit still, you can't use stuff, or it hurts to use stuff. So it helps to get up in the morning and look at the sky and say, thank you, God, for another day, and start walking or doing little, you know, little chair movements and stuff like that. So we got to take care of ourselves in order to take care of other people. So I keep that in mind. And I also keep in mind the fact that my granny used to say, this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. And when we started ONE, I used to always say, we are all one. We're all in this together, and we're all going to have to deal with this together. And that's it, Miss Valerie.
All right, Miss Brenda. Anyone else?
This is Jim Hawk with Neighbor to Neighbor. We are an essential business. We have not stopped. In fact, our work has increased here because of the tornado recovery efforts, the COVID-19, and also the 2020 census. And so there's a lot of people out there that are in that same situation where they're still working just as hard as ever, if not more these days. In my own personal life, I've turned to the doctor. When I was in college, I found this wonderful little British show called Doctor Who, which is now on their like 21st Doctor. It's not that far, but they have a lot of doctors, right? And so I have been watching those shows, thanks to BritBox, every evening. That's part of my ritual, is to sit there and watch 2 or 3 episodes. and it connects me to my past. It was a very enjoyable thing to do with my classmates in college, and so it's wonderful to have that opportunity. But I am not a couch potato. So I take 3 walks every day, about a half hour for each walk, because at different times, because that's really important. I'm eating, actually, now that I'm not going to restaurants as much, I'm eating healthier today than I think I've ever eaten. And so that's been really good. And then the other thing that we do together is Evening Under the Stars, where we try to go out sometime between 7 and 8 each evening for 30 minutes to an hour and just sit outside and hear the crickets, which you can actually hear now because there's not as much cars and planes. And that's a great way to end the day.
This is Spencer Edelstein with Rosebank Neighbors, and yeah, I like to sit outside, do my gardening, wind down. I've done a lot of projects, and I found that that's actually relaxing. Getting my yard in nice shape, and but I like to go outside with a beverage and sit on my swing and listen to. I'm fortunate enough to have a couple owls and hawks in our neighborhood, and quite a few other birds, and just listening to them talk to each other is always a nice, relaxing end to the day.
Very good. Anyone else?
One thing that I'd like to add, Valerie, that I forgot to mention earlier is that I've made it a strict rule for myself, and so has my wife, that 30 minutes before bed, phones are down, no screen time. We typically will read books for that last little, part of the day. And I've found that I'm sleeping better. The bags under my eyes aren't as noticeable. So it's good for my mental health, and it's good for my overall just physical health as well.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, thank you all so much. One of my favorite sayings is you can't pour from an empty pitcher. And so it's so critical that we spend time taking care of ourselves, because we are doing so much for others. We really have to make sure we're in a position to do that. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you again, panelists, for sharing your expertise and knowledge. We want to also thank the audience for joining in. Please be sure to check out our next installments in the Leading in Crisis series. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.